Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chief Software Architect, Microsoft Corporation, Ozzie.
Hello, PDC. Great to be back. Hey, I really hope you enjoyed what you saw yesterday during the keynote and the breakout sessions. We've got a lot of great things in store for you today. Hopefully a few surprises. When I spoke with you yesterday, I talked a bit about our industry's transformation towards services and how Microsoft is embracing services and service-enhanced software to transform our offerings across the board, from our back-end infrastructure to our business solutions, to our client OS, our desktop apps, our runtimes, and our tools. Yesterday, we introduced Windows Azure, Windows in the cloud. We introduced you to our Azure Services Platform, a comprehensive suite of services that'll provide a host of new opportunities for web developers, business ISVs, and enterprise developers who wish to expand their solutions into the cloud. So if yesterday's keynote was about our computing foundations, the back-end tier, service infrastructure, and business, then as promised, today we'll take more of an outside-in view, a view from the perspective of the user interface and our experiences. Today we'll talk about the front-end innovations in our client platform, in our OS, and in our apps. You'll get a sense of our take on the future of personal computing in an era that's not just about the PC anymore, but rather has grown to be about the PC, phone, and web. You know, for many of us, the things that we think about when we hear that term, personal computing, are the things that we've been doing with the PC for so many years. Email, presentation, docs, and spreadsheets. All of these things are still so very core to what many of us, most of us, do on a day-to-day basis with a PC. And if you've got gray hair like mine, the term personal computing might even remind you of the days when it was truly a wild aspiration to have a PC on every desk and a PC in every home. But for many of us here today, it's really hard to imagine a home or a teacher or a student who doesn't have some kind of access to a PC. It's even harder to imagine a desk in our workplaces without a PC. I mean, what would you do all day? For those of us who have used the PC for the past 10, 15, or 20 years and through countless events in our lives, it's really easy to forget just how much this amazing tool has changed over the years, how it's grown as our needs have grown. Without thinking twice, we've grown to entrust it with our family memories, our finances, our contracts, the records of our health. In our industry, it's only natural to be excited about the potential of new technologies and to focus all of our energy on delivering the promise of that next big thing. But in times like these, when so many of us are just pausing for a moment to take the time to reflect on the fundamentals and on value, well, it's been interesting for me to reflect upon the PC and Windows and how over the years, together, they've exhibited such flexibility, such resilience, such adaptability to our changing needs. And that's why it gives me such optimism to show you what we're going to show you today in terms of how the PC is adapting once again to be even more relevant and more valuable in this era that's so centered on the web. You know, it's getting hard to find things that haven't been impacted by the internet over the course of the web's brief life, by its technologies, its community, its connection to so much of what we do. And yet, even though each one of us sits down every day at a PC and uses a browser on that PC for hours on end, the net and that PC are still two worlds apart. To date, we've barely scratched the surface of how we can use the PC to improve the value of what we do on the web. We've barely scratched the surface of how the web can improve the value of our investments in our PC. If you take one thing away from what you see here today at PDC, it's that we can do our customers a great service by focusing on how we can give them the most combined value of their investments. The fact is, we're almost all going to have PCs, a phone, and rich access to the web. And so it's our objective to make the combination of the PC, phone, and web clearly more valuable for our customers than just the sum of their parts. So if these things are going to add up to something more, add up to something better, what are the unique and differentiated aspects of each of the PC, phone, and web? What is it exactly that has made PC-based Windows apps so uniquely valuable and so effective at what they do for so long? Well, the most fundamental advantage of a PC is that both Windows and the app are sitting right next to the hardware, the processor, memory, graphics, and disk. If the user is going to spend a ton of time in an app, especially if it's a highly interactive app, then from a user's time perspective, and thus from a user's value perspective, it just makes so much sense to place the user very close to that app. By putting an app on a PC, you can take advantage of today's very high-resolution screens, or even multiple screens, to increase the context surrounding the user. An app might take advantage of a PC's natural input, voice, or drawing on a tablet, or gestures that a user might make on a touch-sensitive screen. I know this may sound trivial, but through simple mechanisms like the clipboard and drag and drop, users find real value in combining their apps so they kind of seem to them as though they work together as one. And of course, users find immense value in the storage on their PCs for confidentiality and mobility, for speed of access and local convenience, for documents and rich media, photos, videos, music, and more. The bottom line is that the Windows PC's most central value will always be in the way it enables one to richly create and consume, richly interact with, and richly edit a world of information that's relevant to you. It's an unparalleled, high-performance, time-saving, and productive personal information management device. So if that's the core strength of the PC, then what's so unique about apps built for the web? Well, first and foremost, the power of the web is that it lets us access the world. If we need to communicate with someone or rendezvous, we all now know just what it is we're supposed to do. If we need to share some information or do a quick transaction, we all now know where it is we're supposed to go. Between the email address and the URL, the internet has become our common meeting place, our common language. It's every company's front door. Yes, the browser as universal runtime is cool and it's really useful, but this is not the core of the web's sustainable uniqueness. The web's unique value is in its ability to assemble the world's people, the world's organizations, its public information, its services and devices, enabling us to connect, to communicate, to transact, and to share. And what about the phone? Well, writing software for a phone in many ways has the same advantages as writing software for a PC. Phone software is very, very close to the hardware, and it has full access to the capabilities of any particular device. But the truly unique advantage of a phone-based app is that it's always with you, and it's ready for your spontaneous action. The phone knows where you are, what time it is, so it can tag your location on something. With its camera, you can snap a picture in the context of what you're doing. You can record a quick idea, or use text or ink to jot down a note. There's no better way than a phone for you to immediately comprehend that something that you care about is suddenly in need of your attention. And so the phone's most unique value will always be in how it enables an app's spontaneity, things like notification and capture wherever you are. For a given customer and for a given solution, each of the PC, phone, and web has its own unique role, its own distinct value. But when taken together, they're far more valuable than when they're thought of apart. And an app that spans all three can deliver the best editing, the best sharing, the most spontaneous action notification. And delivering this kind of simple, seamless, integrated experience is at the heart of the value in our next generation services, OS, and apps. And we can also provide the same platform value to all of our developers. We can provide the means by which you can do the same. At Microsoft, we have a lot invested in developing software, just like you. We need to build great Windows apps. We need to build great web apps. We need to build great apps for the phone. We need these platforms to work together, and yet we also want full access to the power and capabilities of each. And so we're investing to make Windows and our development tools and runtimes the best way to build and deliver software for the PC, phone, and web. For a Windows developer, we'll advance the platform in two very distinct ways. First, you'll always be able to look to our newest version of Windows, such as Windows 7, to deliver our best platform and experience innovations, and to bring new hardware capabilities to the user in a meaningful and compelling way. We'll also continue to invest in advancing the capabilities of the broader installed base of Windows, periodically delivering significant updates to our platform and our runtimes, such as .NET Framework and DirectX. You'll also see our Windows app model continuing to evolve, taking on some of the best characteristics of what's so natural to do on the web. Windows apps that are more seamlessly downloaded or optionally isolated and cached, a more appliance-like behavior in how we deal with our data and our apps. And for the web developer, through our work in IE8 and through our work in our platform and tools, you'll see that we've put a huge focus on enabling you to build great, contemporary HTML, CSS, AJAX web apps across platforms and across browsers. And for those wishing to deliver truly differentiated web experiences, Silverlight 2, which has now gone live, extends those browsers with rich media, rich controls, and the power of .NET. And this morning, you'll also see how we're evolving web apps to have some of the best characteristics of being a Windows app, making web apps installable, auto-syncing content, taking web apps offline. Regardless of whether you're developing for the web or for Windows, we know that today you've got an unprecedented number of options in your choice of platforms and tools and runtimes and frameworks. And depending upon whether you're a Windows ISV or a developer of business solutions or a game developer or a web developer, your needs may vary quite considerably. And so I'm not going to stand up here and give you some grand pronouncement that one specific language or one specific runtime that we've got will suit all your needs for all time to come. But as you'll see, we are investing heavily, and we're innovating, and we're proud of our Windows platform and where it's going. And I think when you look at what you see today, I think you're really going to like what you see. So there's a lot to show, and let's get started. This morning, Stephen Sinofsky, Senior Vice President of our Windows engineering team, will take you on a tour of Windows 7 and Windows Live Wave 3, showing you the significant investments we've been making in our client and how we're working toward a vision of seamless software and services integration between Windows 7 and Windows Live. At the platform level, Scott Guthrie and Dave Treadwell together will talk about development in a world that spans the PC, phone, and web. Scott Guthrie, Corporate Vice President of our Development Platform team, will show you how our platforms, runtimes, and tools make it easy to write great Windows apps and great web apps. Dave Treadwell, Corporate Vice President of our Live Services team, will show you the Live Services component of our Azure Services Platform that you saw yesterday, and how this service is the key enabler of our vision of creating bridges between the PC, web, and phone. Finally, Takeshi Nomoto, General Manager in our Office business, will bring it all together using this software plus services platform to extend Office into the realm of connected productivity, productivity across PC, phone, and web. But first, let's talk about Windows 7. And to do so, I'd like to introduce Stephen Sinofsky. Stephen?
Welcome, everybody, to the PDC. It is really, really an honor and fantastic to get a chance to welcome you to Windows 7 in our first public demonstrations. So on behalf of all of you and our Windows team, we're really excited to bring this to you today. And thanks, Ray, for that introduction. So I'm all that stand between you and the first demonstration of Windows 7. So I thought what I would do is just quickly introduce what we're going to show you today. We're going to start off and show you a demo of the Windows 7 client. And as you know, we also have in sync a version of Windows Server, Server 2008 R2. And they share the same kernel, but today we're going to focus on the client. We'll talk about software and services and the work that we're doing to bring these all together, as Ray talked about. And we'll go through the transition from Windows Vista, APIs, and we'll talk about fundamentals to give you a broader context of the release. And then finally, we'll go through the path to RTM that I know a lot of you are very interested in. So as we show Windows 7, I want everybody to think along 3 lines that we're going to show you today. We're going to show you how Windows 7 brings you a personalized experience where you're in control of your PC. We're going to show you how you can connect, whether it's devices or storage or all the information so you can find and organize the information across your PC. And then we're going to show you how to bring together all the functionality of devices. And those are just 3 of the areas we're going to show you today in Windows 7. It's a very broad release, and it takes a lot to bring out a major release of Windows. There are many parts of it we're not going to get to show you today, but there are 20 sessions here at the show that dig into the deep details of how all of this is implemented. So to do this demonstration, I'd like to invite Julie Larson-Green on stage. So it's exciting for us because Julie and I both are longtime PDC attendees, both of us having been developers way back in the day. So please join me in welcoming Julie, and on behalf of the Windows team, too.
Thank you, Stephen. Well, let's just get started. Right down on the bottom, you're going to see a new taskbar. In previous versions of Windows, we had multiple places for you to go and launch and switch between Windows and your app on your PC. We have both the Start menu for launching applications, a quick launch area, and the taskbar for switching windows. Now in Windows 7, we brought all those places together into one view where it's easy for you to find the applications you want and the windows you want to get to. Let me show you how it works here. Here I have Internet Explorer, and as I mouse over Internet Explorer, you see the windows that are associated with it. As I go over Explorer, you can see it as well. And here I have Word. And applications that aren't running, you don't see any windows for, but when I click on them, you get the window. So when I switch over here to, say, one of the windows, it brings that window forward so I can easily get to the one that I want to and be sure, because sometimes that thumbnail is just a little too small, and you want to be able to be sure what the window is that you want to get to. And when I switch to this one here, you can see that there's 2 tabs in Internet Explorer, and when I'm mousing over these, it's showing me the tabs as well as individual windows, making it very easy to find that tab that you want to get to and get to it with one click. Over here in Word, I can do the same thing, and you can also manage your windows from right inside the thumbnail. So I can go ahead and decide to close a window here. I can also bring up what we call jump list by right-clicking, and it gives me the MRU list, or the most recently used applications that I've used in Word, and I can go ahead and launch one of those very quickly and easily and reduce the number of times it takes for me to get into Word, go to the File menu, find that document. Now within 2 clicks, I'm back working on the documents I was working with the day before. Now, people tend to get more than one window open on their screen, so we've been working on window management features as well. So when I drag this window over to the side, you'll see it snap to the left, and I can drag another one and snap to the right. And now it's easy to compare between and drag drop between 2 documents. I can also make it full screen just by docking it at the top and then drag it back down. Really handy on multiple monitors to go and take and full screen that document on your separate monitor. Now, as I said before, it's very easy for you to put these things on your taskbar. So just drag it from the Start menu, drop it there, and it pins it to the taskbar. And I have full control over the order and the things that are in the taskbar. So I can move them. How long have you wanted to be able to do that? So you can get them. We saw people in our usability labs just shutting down all the programs and opening them up in a particular order to get into place. So we thought it should be super easy to have it work the way you want it to and put your favorite applications so that muscle memory can really take over. And then here on the Start menu, we also support jump lists. So you can see the things that I can get to very quickly and easily, making it super quick to get to the work in the windows that you want to do. So now I'm going to bring up the Windows Explorer and show you how you can get to all the things that are on your computer. So in Windows Explorer, Windows 7, it brings together all the places that you can access your data and information from. With a new innovation called libraries, it brings together the flexibility of folders, the power of Windows Desktop Search, and spans across multiple storage locations. So I'll show you what I mean. So here I am in Documents. I have multiple library locations. So these library locations can be anywhere, any external hard drive, a thumb drive, other computers inside your home, and you can pull them together into one view so you can search and filter and view those files all in one place. So here I am in the Documents view across two libraries. In Search, we've added the capabilities of being able to see what keywords that you have access to, so you don't have to try and figure those out and learn those. I'm going to click on Type, and it's going to give me a list of all the types of documents that I have on this computer. So I'm going to choose DocX, which is a Word file. It's going to bring up all the Word files for me really quickly and easily. I can also type in, say, a keyword like marketing, and I've been doing a lot of that kind of stuff lately. And it's going to bring up everything that has the word marketing in it with a yellow highlight. We also still have previews, so you can still preview the document, and it makes it super easy for you to get to the things that you want to get to. Now, home networking has been around since Windows 3.11 for workgroups. And I don't think many people, except maybe the people in this room and a few outside of it, have been able to get it to work. But in Windows 7, we've made it super easy with Home Group. By just simply connecting to your own network at home, all the Windows 7 PCs on your home network find each other and are automatically connected to the printers and other devices that are on your network. Let me show you a little bit about that. Open up the Network and Sharing Center, and you see all the options you have for sharing. So the way this works is you come home from work, you bring your home laptop in, you connect to your wireless network, and then you're automatically connected with a simple PIN to the rest of your home group. All the printers, all the computers, all the wireless devices that you use, maybe a home theater system device or a photo frame, are all available for you automatically from connecting into that network. Of course, you can control what's visible to others in your home. By default, you get pictures, music, printers, and videos, but you can add documents. You can also restrict individual items and individual folders if you don't want other people in your home seeing those things. So let's take a little bit more of a deep dive into Home Group. Here I have another PC called Caitlin's PC, and I can go ahead and just connect. I'm automatically connected, and I can look at her music. I can go back and look at her pictures or videos or documents. So let's go to My Music. I'm going to do a search here. I did the search earlier, so a search for Red Thread. And I don't have Red Thread music on this PC. So with people having more and more content, music content, video content around their home, we make it very easy for you to search for it, so you don't have to remember what PC to go to get that content. So here I'm going to search across my home group, and I find Red Thread, and I can go ahead and click this. Now it's on the Caitlin PC that's right over here. And I start playing it in the new, there we go. And that's our new player, the new lightweight player for Media Player. But of course, the libraries are still there. So you can go into Media Player and create playlists and do all the things you can do in past versions of Windows. The difference here is that the libraries on the left-hand side are the same libraries that you see in the Explorer. Media Center also uses the same libraries, so you manage and create and use your content in the same way across Windows Explorer, Windows Media Player, and Windows Media Center. So here I am in the Media Player, and I talked before about how I can connect to devices. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click and play to a device that's on my network. It's the Sonos Media Renderer right here. It's quite the song. And so I'm playing music from the other computer on my home group, on Caitlin's PC, to my home stereo from this PC.
And you can also do that with videos and pictures as well. So if you have a photo frame or something like that, you can send your media all over your house.
Right. Thanks, Stephen. And right here, I have a Motorola phone. And devices are getting more and more capable as time goes on, and most of them are turning into multifunction devices. And there's a ton of these devices that can work with Windows, offering you a lot of choice on what you want to use with your PC. In Windows 7, we have a new feature called Device Stage, where we bring together all those capabilities that are present in that device into one place for you to see everything that you can do with that device. So here I am on the device stage for the Motorola Rocker. I can set up my sync capabilities. I can manage the media on my device. I can browse files. I can go and find that documentation, because I probably threw out the manual when I got the box. So I can go online and get that. And anything that the device does can be exposed through the device stage. When I click on devices and printers, I see a view of all the devices that are connected that I can work with. Over here, the Canon inkjet printer is part of my home group, and it is the printer that is connected to Caitlin's PC. Behind the scenes, seamless to me, that printer was installed just as if it was a local printer, and I can use it to connect and print documents without doing any additional work. Now, we do one thing extra, that when you come home from work and you connect your laptop into your home group, we automatically switch you to the home printer. And then when you go back to work, we automatically switch you back to the work printer. So no longer printing those personal documents at work or those work documents at home. But even with all this power, Windows 7 makes it really easy for you to keep the desktop clean. We've changed the way that gadgets work, so you no longer are confined to a bar, and you can have them anywhere you want on the desktop. And I was surprised to learn when I came to the Windows team how many people actually personalize and change their desktop. Over 95% of our users change the desktop, some of them doing it many more times a month. Now, lots of people change them in different ways. Some of you power users probably like a plain dark background, and someone else might want something a little more colorful. So I'm going to go ahead and choose one here, and I get to go over and take a peek at my desktop and see if I like this one. I'm moving down to the bottom right-hand corner to take a peek at that desktop. And that one looks pretty good. Let's try one more. Here's a set of windows.
We've also made it easier to share and create themes on your own, and that's, I know, something that's really important to people.
And besides being able to package them up and share them, you have a lot of capability to customize them to what you want to look. So here we have some presets on what the glass color, and if you notice at the top of my window and at the bottom of the taskbar, you can see it automatically updating, because we bring glass all the way down now. I have a lot of choice on mixing those colors. Let's make it a little bit more on the brown side, and maybe change the hue just a little bit there. And so you can very easily package up and change and update your desktop as quickly and easily as a couple of clicks. Now, another way that you can stay in control of the way that your computer is working for you is down here in the system tray, down here on the bottom right-hand corner. This is the area that is considered the notification area. And it's a place that all those little annoying pop-ups keep coming up for and asking you to do things right in the middle of your work. So asking you to download vendor definitions when you're trying to get a presentation out. So now, in Windows 7, only you have control of what is in the list and in the system tray. By default, every icon moves into this upper area, and then you can move in or move out and rearrange exactly what you want in here. You also have
It's okay. It's okay. We like it too.
You also have a lot of control over how to customize those notifications. So here, everything that comes into the tray, you have the ability to change and show and hide all the notifications and how the icon shows up on the tray. We also bring together all the things that you can do to manage your PC with the Action Center. And this is where all those messages get queued up until you're really ready to deal with it yourself. So I open up the Action Center, and it's one place to go to maintain the security and look at your PC's performance, and bringing together all those other places into one view.
So one of the key things about the PC is really the seam between hardware and software. And so one of the areas that we've really invested heavily in Windows over the years is different types of hardware for interface and for interaction with end users. So what we're going to show today is a little bit of the work that we've done on touch, although this extends to the work that we've done in speech and ink, all building on a foundation over many years of work. So Julie's going to show some of the touch work in Windows 7.
So what I have right here is a HP TouchSmart. This machine is in the market today. It's under $2,000. It's a pretty cool machine. And what I'm going to show you is how we have augmented the user experience using touch. So you saw before when I showed you those jump lists. I'm going to use my finger to bring up the jump list. And you might notice there's more space between the items. There's 25% more space here, making it easier for me to go ahead and click with my finger, using my finger as a mouse, in that space. Now here I am in Word 2007. It doesn't know anything about touch or Windows 7, but we have repowered all the mouse commands with touch. So even though it doesn't know anything about it, I can go ahead and scroll, I can go ahead and zoom, and do things that Word can do with the mouse with touch. Now, if your program understands a little bit more about touch, you can do other things. So here I'm going to go ahead and launch Internet Explorer. I'm on Live Search. And Internet Explorer knows about the on-screen keyboard. So here I can go in and do a search. I would search for Windows 7. Oh, and the predictive text on the on-screen keyboard, I've typed that before a couple times. Go ahead and choose that. Space 7, enter. And now when I click links, let's go to, I can use things like flicks and gestures to get back and forth on my page. So I go back with a flick, I can go forward with a flick. So very quickly and with just a few, great. So Windows 7 supports a whole range of gestures and a whole range of mouse movements that can become gestures. Two other programs that have been tuned for touch are in the Windows Explorer. Here's the picture view. You can quickly and easily scroll, get a little feedback when I'm down at the end there. And a new refacing of Microsoft Paint with the new ribbon. We've been working with the Office team on bringing the ribbon to Windows.
We've also decided that once every 15 years or so, we're going to update the applets in Windows. So,
whether they need it or not, right?
Whether they need it or not.
So you'll find things like a new calculator, new WordPad supporting the open document format and open XML, and all kinds of new things there. But here I am in Paint. And the ribbon interface makes it very easy for me to use it with touch. I'm going to go ahead and take a picture from here and drag it over. And then I'm going to bring it and dock it at the top so you can see it. And then I'm going to use the brushes to go ahead and pick the size. And I'm going to say, hello from Seattle on my postcard. And since this is multi-touch, I'll make a little heart. So those are some examples of applications that don't know anything about touch, but can be augmented with touch automatically through the mouse commands. Some applications that have learned about gestures and programmed specifically for scenarios in touch. And then there will also be applications that use touch as a primary way of input. Here, you might have seen this on the internet before. Here is an application you can play with on the Surface tables. You can also play with it in the Pavilion. And it makes it really easy for me to play and interact very easily and move around in the screen in an interactive way. And we think there'll be lots of very cool applications coming out, multiplayer applications. There's a Pong game over in the Pavilion where you can play multiplayer with touch on the screen. And it's been a lot of fun to think about new ways that applications can work using this new hardware innovation. So that's just a small look at what we've done with Windows 7. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I can hardly wait to hear your feedback. Thanks.
Thanks, Julie. Well, welcome to Windows 7, everyone. I hope that was an exciting first look for you. What I would like to do now is talk a little bit about the work that Ray talked about and how we bring together software and services to really create a complete experience across the phone, PC, and web. And the way we do that, we will deliver that with Windows 7, is first and foremost by building on the core platform, the core OS platform of Windows 7. And with Windows 7, it too connects to software and services. Whether it's the update service, the music metadata service, or any of the assistance and online help that really connect to the core of Windows, every day, hundreds of millions of people around the world use the services from within Windows. And of course, Windows is also a great services platform for experiencing the web with Internet Explorer 8. So in addition to all the work that we did on standards, we also made it possible for all of you as developers to extend your services to the PC platform using Internet Explorer, using some of the features that we've been showing in Internet Explorer 8 Beta 2, such as web slices and accelerators. But software and services is all about choice and control of your experience. And we build on that with the Windows Live suite of essential software and Windows Live services. And so Windows Live Essentials is a set of rich applications that you can use to extend your PC experience to the web services. Some of these had previously been in Windows releases, and we brought them all together into one suite of software. And this software it's optional and downloadable, and you can connect to your own choice of services or to the Windows Live services. So with Windows Live Mail, you can use POP or IMAP, or you can connect to Windows Live Hotmail, and through that get a very rich experience with offline, synchronized contacts, synchronized calendars, and bring together your software and services experience to your PC so that you're in control of it. Windows Live Services extend this even further by making those services available to you in your web browser, in Internet Explorer, or in any browser that you choose. And it brings together a set of services for mail, for Messenger, for contacting your friends, for sharing photos, for sharing information and blogging. And together, the Windows Live Essentials and the Windows Live Services represent this great opportunity for you to expand your PC experience to the web and bring them all together in a software and services experience. And so we're already in beta 2 of Windows Live Essentials, or in beta of Windows Live Essentials, and you can download that today as well. And over the coming months, we'll be showing the new Windows Live services as well. But together, this really represents what we think of as a complete communications and sharing experience across the phone, PC, and web. So as we set out to build this release of Windows 7, we really did have to recognize the context with which we were releasing Windows 7 in and developing it, and that's in transitioning from Windows Vista. We certainly got a lot of feedback about Windows Vista at RTM. We got feedback from reviews, from the press, a few bloggers here and there, oh, and some commercials. So as an engineering team, we had to do what engineers do, which is you build a product, you build a service, you step back and you say, okay, what did we learn from that? What can we do better? What went well? How do we build on our experiences? And that's really what all of engineering is about, is building on the experiences that we share together. And so the first thing we did after the RTM of Windows Vista, is we had to really take stock and make sure that we did a great job delivering Windows Server 2008 and Windows Vista Service Pack 1. And we looked at all of the things that people had raised, and we said we've really got to go, improve the performance of the system, improve the compatibility, the reliability, and really bring people up to speed in the product that they expected us to release. And over that first year, during SP1, we increased the device coverage, we improved application compatibility, and we fixed important issues in the product. And we really did bring Vista SP1 to the level that today when we see customers, we know that the product is what they can use, what they can deploy, and we're seeing that happen today. And so we were pleased with the progress that we made during that course. And of course, Server 2008, with its robust kernel and the hardening that we've done there on security and reliability, all together demonstrated the commitment that we have to learning and improving as we move forward. But there were some key lessons that we learned as we developed Windows Vista. So I wanted to talk about those and make sure that folks understand the work that we put into building Windows 7 and the lessons that we learned and putting those to practice. So first was the readiness of the overall ecosystem for Windows 7. And the ecosystem is really what Windows is part of. Hardware vendors, software vendors, the people that make personal computers, and all the elements that really bring a PC to life for a person at the end of that PC. And with Windows Vista, we changed a lot of things that require a lot of work by the ecosystem, the device driver model, and so on. And with those, we really weren't ready at launch with the device coverage that we need. Today, we know that well over 95% of PCs can get all their drivers with Windows Vista. And we've got to do a better job of being ready up front with Windows 7. Because Windows 7 is built on the same kernel as Windows Server 2008 and Windows Vista, there are no changes that are going to require a reworking of that ecosystem. And so all of the devices and all the compatibility work that have gone on into the past 2 years of Windows Vista will pay off in the work that we've done with Windows 7. The next area that we had to learn from is really the requests from you, the developers, in our support for standards. And this particularly manifests itself in the work that we've done with Internet Explorer 8. So we got a lot of feedback about the support we had for cascading style sheets and the need to really standardize Internet Explorer on that core set of functionality that developers expect for building those AJAX and CSS applications. And so as you've seen with Internet Explorer 8, we've really implemented the CSS standard, the acid test, the torture test, but we've gone a step further. We've released all of the compliance test work that we did to the public so that folks can test their own browsers, can test their own development, and also see how we validate it against a very, very significant and complex specification. We've also supported standards. I mentioned we update our applets every 15 years. Well, in Windows 7, we also updated WordPad. And WordPad will support the OpenXML file format and ODF file formats. And we're excited to bring that support because we know that people have asked for it. And our commitment there is definitely very strong. Third is on the role of compatibility. We made some changes in Windows Vista that made compatibility have a few challenges. One small change, some of you might have heard this UAC feature. So of course we had all the best intentions of helping to secure the PC platform even more, particularly for novice or inexperienced PC users who need to be protected from malware and other things. And we probably went, as far as you're concerned, for developers a little too far, and we learned the role that we play in trying to maintain compatibility. On the other hand, the PC with Windows Vista is more secure now. And the work that we've done to say, hey, it's really great to run your applications that you build in standard user mode is really coming to fruition now. And so we see the vast majority of software is able to run perfectly fine now in standard user mode. So we think despite the difficult change that we introduced, we did move forward the ecosystem in terms of really making it more secure for end users. And then finally is the role of scenarios. And this is something that we really thought of from the very beginning of planning Windows 7, which is we've got to do a great job bringing forth the end-to-end experience that customers will experience when they use Windows 7. Windows has always had a strong heritage in delivering really hardcore technologies to the marketplace, working with partners, working with hardware, working with software vendors to bring new technologies to the market. But there was always that last mile, that last step that folks wish we would have helped deliver. And I think we've really tried hard in Windows 7 to do a great job on some key scenarios. You saw one good example of that today, which is home networking. As Julie mentioned, we've had sharing and printer sharing and folder sharing in Windows since Windows for Workgroups 3.1. And yet, unless you were one of you in the audience, it was probably pretty difficult to set that up in your home. And with Windows 7, we brought that all together in one scenario. Just to give you an idea of how that will manifest itself, even if you bring home your work laptop, as soon as you connect to your home wireless network, we'll say, hey, this is a home group. Would you like to join this machine to your home group? Maybe share the printer, maybe get access to the files. But we've also gone the extra length because we said, well, if it's your work machine, it's probably domain joined, probably don't want to have access through your home group to the files on that machine. So it'll still maintain security, maintain that integrity of the domain join, but participate fully in the scenario of a home network. And so all of those come together to really represent the engineering lessons that we have that we've really tried to put in place in improving the engineering of Windows 7. And we've started to share some of that learning on our Engineering 7 blog. And I think it's going to be a great source moving forward of the discussion and the dialogue that we're having with you, our fellow developers, about building a complex product like Windows 7. So as developers, there are a lot of things in Windows 7 for you. As we said, that was a demonstration of the end user view of some of the features of Windows 7. But there are a lot of opportunities for developers as well. The first is the ribbon user interface. And so that's an opportunity for you to modernize your client user interface, for you to use a data-driven UI paradigm, and to make it simple to bring that interface to all of your customers. It's an interface we've used in WordPad and in Paint. You'll see it show up in Movie Maker and Windows Live, and we're going to start to move that across a broad set of applications. Two other features that are really important are jump lists and libraries. Jump lists were the little menus down at the Start menu that are on the taskbar that show up when you right-click or on the Start menu. And libraries were the way to bring together search and storage locations in multiple computers. The idea of both of these is to integrate deeply with the Windows desktop experience. These are opportunities for you and your software to really work seamlessly through and across and with Windows. It's an opportunity for you to differentiate your software, and an opportunity for you to participate in the personalization, the choice, and the control that Windows 7 promises end users. So you'll see this in Messenger and in Mail, Windows Live Messenger, Windows Live Mail, and all the applications across Microsoft will soon contribute to really bringing forward jump lists and libraries. Also, libraries update the common dialogues, and that makes it easy for you to access the libraries and use them when you use the common dialogues. As we talked about, Windows is about bringing together the new hardware innovations and the software innovations and bringing them together in one seamless experience for customers. Two areas that are really fun for that are first, multi-touch and ink and speech. These all represent ways to augment the user experience, to augment the interaction that you have with people who use your software. Multi-touch is a fantastic example of a way that unique hardware can also manifest amazing experiences for customers. Over in the big room, we've got a huge 42-inch touch panel plasma screen, just like the one I've got at home. And you could go up and you could see it opens your eyes to incredibly cool new scenarios that you could have. Whether you're designing software that might be used in a directory that would be in front of a building or in a mall, or a really, really small screen that might serve as the basis for a modern home automation system. These different form factors will surface, and we'll start, and of course the Surface computer, that was a good pun, and the Surface computer that you see out in front. And these technologies will all bring forth over the coming months as we go to a hardware engineering conference and show the work that we can do together with the ecosystem, the complete ecosystem for Windows. And finally is the DirectX family of APIs. So DirectX really brings the amazing power of graphics hardware today and puts an incredibly powerful API around it that allows you to really tap the incredible potential of graphics on a modern PC. We're all familiar with DirectX for games, and that's certainly the heritage. With Windows 7, we've extended DirectX to 2D, to animation, and also to very, very high-performant and extremely fine-looking text. Together, all of the DirectX family now really represents the modern view of GDI. And so we have plenty of sessions here at the PDC on all of these topics, and I would really encourage you to have a look, and to learn and to see how you can bring your software to life on Windows 7 and to make for a great experience where your users and your customers are in control, experience a personalized experience, and also take advantage of the latest hardware. What I'd like to do now is show a quick video of Autodesk taking advantage of multi-touch. And so they've built a specialized application that they're working on that really taps the power of touch.
Autodesk is the world leader in 2D and 3D design software for the manufacturing, building and construction, and media and entertainment markets.
Autodesk Labs has been collaborating with Microsoft in using the new Windows 7 touch technologies. Let me show you how some of this stuff is starting to come together now. Welcome to Autodesk Mudbox 2009. What you see here is Mudbox running atop Microsoft's multi-touch APIs. I'm currently doing research in 3D interactive manipulation, and Microsoft's multi-touch APIs are allowing me to do this research quicker and easier. And what you see here now is the multi-touch APIs actually allowing me to add touch functionality to manipulation of models and views. I can rotate the view, I can zoom in, I can look at finer details, 2 fingers, and quickly and easily modify my application and add functionality to it. The new Windows 7 Touch APIs are helping Autodesk differentiate our products by providing a more natural and intuitive user interface.
Of course, that's just one example. So I want to thank Autodesk for that, certainly. I'd like to talk a little bit now about fundamentals. Fundamentals is what we call the work around security, reliability, compatibility, and performance. So with fundamentals, what we've done different in Windows 7 is really make sure that fundamentals is a job of every developer on the Windows team. And we've combined that with our effort to really think across complete scenarios and think about how we address fundamentals from beginning to end for implementing the real experience that people will see every day. So it's a bit early in the development cycle to really make claims about fundamentals, but more importantly, our goal is for you to experience Windows 7 and decide for yourself that we've really delivered on improved performance, improved reliability, and compatibility. Let me talk a little bit about the work we are doing in Windows 7 around fundamentals and performance in particular, and the kinds of things that we've been really trying to deliver. You know, fundamental performance is all about some things that you want to make smaller and some things that you want to make faster or less. And so looking at some of the things that we wanted to reduce, we thought it would be a good idea to maybe reduce the memory footprint of a core Windows 7 installation. We thought it would be a good idea to reduce the overhead of the desktop window manager so that when you're developing, you don't feel the need to turn it off just so you could get that last bit of memory out of the system. We worked really hard to reduce the disk I/O that happens across Windows 7, particularly things like reading from the registry or using the indexer, and these have been reduced substantially. You know, power is something that we're all very aware of. Whether it's on a desktop and you just want to use less power, or on a laptop and you'd like to increase your battery life. This is a great example of where we've really thought about the scenarios as well. So we've looked at DVD playback, which is an end-to-end scenario that covers many subsystems. It covers the I/O subsystem, the memory subsystem, the graphics subsystem, and worked to increase the playback time that you'll get with a DVD on a laptop. We've worked hard on things like timers. You know, those of you that put timers in your code, you realize that if you just decrease the resolution of that timer, you can substantially improve the battery life. And so we've added to the command line power CFG tool, we've added the ability for you to analyze how much power and where you might be having a timer that's taking up too much power. We've also worked on, we thought it'd be a good idea to, you know, maybe make Windows 7 a little bit faster. So we've worked on boot speed, device readiness, responsiveness. So we've taken a look at the start menu and the taskbar across the board and making them respond as instantaneously as possible. And we've done that by looking at all the places that there could be very low-level kernel semaphores or locks, and work to make sure that we have as few of those as possible so you can always get to the start menu and taskbar. And finally is scale. You know, Windows is the kernel of Windows is shared across the client and the server. And with Windows 7, we'll increase the scale to enable up to 256 processors. And we'll talk about more next week at the Windows Hardware Engineering Conference. I'd like to walk over here, and I'm going to do a quick demo now. And I'm going to show you a few of the features that I think will make Windows 7 an exciting development environment for you. But since we were just talking about fundamentals, I thought somebody asked me yesterday, hey, what laptop do you use? Well, you know, part of the fun of my job is I use lots of different laptops all the time. That's just a great benefit. But I am currently using this laptop. It's a really small netbook. And I'm using this with Windows 7. It has a 1 gigahertz processor and 1 gigabyte of RAM. And it's running Windows 7. And when I boot it, about half that RAM is still available today in the current builds. And we're going to keep working on that. And we're pretty excited about the work that we've done on performance. And I'm pretty excited about this class of machine and the work that we could do to deliver that Windows 7 on those machines. So let me show you a quick demo of some features that I think you're going to like in using Windows 7 as a development environment. So we all have a lot of USB memory sticks. And I think if you're like me, you've occasionally lost one of those memory sticks. I have a whole bag full of them, and then 2 weeks later I have none. And so one of the things that we've done, and this was actually for our enterprise customers, but since we all travel with source code and specs and things on memory sticks, we've added the ability to use BitLocker encryption on a memory stick. So I just have a memory stick inserted, I double-clicked on it, or when you do insert it, you'll get this prompt, and you can add the password, and then when you open it, it will decrypt the drive and let you have access to all of the information on it. And so everywhere you go, if you happen to lose the memory stick, you're in good shape. Because we designed this for our enterprise customers, it also includes a lot of group policy for managing it and really making sure that the company has the ability to really control the mobile user use of these memory sticks. How many of you use VHDs every once in a while? So let's talk about the work that we've done in Windows 7 to natively mount and manage VHDs. So I'm here in the disk management utility. I'm going to go here. You can see right away I have the ability to create a VHD. So from within Windows natively, I can go create a VHD. Both dynamic and fixed size. I can also attach a VHD by just specifying the path name. And here I am, I've already attached this one, and I just open it up. And this is a Windows XP VHD, and we're pretty excited to be able to do that. But really super cool is you could also boot from a Windows 7 VHD natively. So you could use Boot Manager and say, I've got a Windows 7 VHD, and I want to boot from it. And the reason that's really cool is because while you're developing your software, you can use this VHD, and then using simple copy, the volume snapshot work, will actually reset the VHD to its original state if that's what you want to do while you're developing your software. So you can keep mounting and booting. You can mount and keep booting from the same VHD. Now, you might notice that I'm running this machine at high DPI. As screens have gotten bigger and monitors gotten more numerous, high DPI has become much more important for all of us. And so we've included a lot of work in Windows 7 to address some of the issues that customers have seen with high DPI, and we've made it much easier to set the DPI and to work with it. We also allow you to set the custom DPI size. And in general, I think we've done a much improved job on high DPI. And also on managing multiple monitors. So within Windows natively now, you can adjust landscape, portrait orientation, flip the monitor, and in general, we've enhanced the overall experience here with multi-mon. Those of us that are UI programmers or UI folks, we always are looking to magnify the screen and really find out the details of what's going on the screen. And so one of the things that we've added in Windows 7 is a much improved magnifier, which turns out to be a great feature for developers as well. So I'm going to hold down the window key and just hit the plus button and go ahead and zoom right in. And you'll see it tracks the mouse, and I can really see all the details of just exactly how to shade the ribbon, how the shading in the ribbon is done. And for fun, you could go minus, whee, plus, whee. All right, so how many of you have walked in to do a demo for your latest potential customer and spent about 10 minutes trying to figure out how to connect to an external projector? I'm going to show you a magic fingers feature now, known as Window P. And so I'm going to hold down the Windows key, and I'm going to hit the letter P, and quickly switch between each of the different types of projectors that I can have. And I'm going to go and extend to a dual monitor display. And this is actually the very first time at a PDC ever that someone on stage here has done a dual monitor demo, so I'm kind of excited about that. We're going to see how it works. So here I am. I'm really on 2 monitors and everything. What I really want to do is show you a way that we've enhanced remote desktop. So how many times do you want a remote desktop into your dev machine? Usually has 2 monitors. And you want to actually be a dev. You want to use both monitors. So I'm going to go here, use the jump list to use a connectoid that I have, and I'm going to connect to my dev machine. And as I connect to my dev machine, you're going to see that through remote desktop, it too is a multi-monitor machine. And now I'm going to go back using Window P. Oh, I just love doing this. Meetings now are 10 minutes of people doing this. So I bet when Julie was doing her demo, you were kind of going, I hope they left in a bunch of customization and personalization stuff in that taskbar, because I sure use quick lists a lot, and I move it around. Well, sure enough, we certainly did. You can move the new taskbar all over the place, just like you always could. You could also make it really big, like you always could. And we put in some more finer grained controls, such as small icons. So if you use small icons, the icons will all shrink. And if you put a lot of icons, they get closer and closer together. And here's a really novel concept that we did, which is we now allow you to customize the shutdown button that we have here. And it can be any one of the operations. So finally, I want to show you, as developers, we really all want to be in control of our machine at all times. So Julie showed the Action Center and all the way it queues up notifications. But I want to make sure that folks know that you can change the messages for all the Windows subsystems and just make them never show up if that's what you'd prefer. So here you are in the ability to turn all these messages off, whether it's for the firewall or AV or that UAC one or spyware. And those messages are now under your complete control. In fact, I'm going to show you one last feature, which is this user account control settings control panel. So we've actually added a slider that allows you to decide how much of the UAC you want to see on your machine. So let's take us to RTM now and how this is going to go. Well, first, today, everybody's going to get a copy of the Windows 7 pre-beta. It'll be available at 1 o'clock in the Materials Distribution Center. Not right now, don't leave. Shades of a speech a couple years ago when we did that by accident. But the pre-beta is a very important milestone for us in terms of delivering code to you, because it represents an improvement in our overall engineering cycle. The core development of Windows 7 is broken up into 4 dev milestones: M1, M2, M3, and beta. The pre-beta build is just our M3 build. It's the one that meets our exit criteria on feature completeness, performance. It met everything that we set out to do at the beginning of the project. It's the build we're all running internally at Microsoft. It represents the first opportunity for you to experience the APIs and the work that we put into Windows 7. It's not feature complete yet. In fact, much of the user interface work, which of course is at the top of the stack and the last part to come in, will be complete when we get to beta. So how are we going to get to beta? Well, the first thing is you're going to go install the pre-beta and have a great time with that. Then I hope all of you will tune in to our E7, our Engineering 7 blog out on MSDN, and really see the behind-the-scenes view of how we've come to develop Windows 7. It's a two-way dialogue. It's been an amazing, fun time. I really want to, I know many of our blog readers have been sending me mail and couldn't be here today, so I want to welcome them all, whether they're in Japan or in Italy or in Germany or in Brazil. It's been great exchanging mail with you, and I hope all of you join in the E7 community. The next step is the beta. The beta is going to be feature complete. It's going to be pretty good. It's not going to be final. It's going to be a beta. So we're still not ready for performance benchmarking. We're still not ready to try out how every single edge case works, but it is the complete product as we envision it. I'm here today to tell you that we're going to deliver the beta early next year as well. And so all of you, of course, will be able to get the beta, and you'll get it through MSDN and all the traditional ways. And we're also going to open up the beta broadly, and stay tuned on Microsoft.com/Windows for how you'll be able to download the beta just if you're interested in it. So what do we do with the beta? What do we do with feedback? How do we interact and make sure that we've really got the right product on our hands? Well, the two most important things that we do are, first, there's a feedback tool in the beta. The feedback tool is a link at the top of every single window and an icon on the desktop that whenever you get frustrated, whenever something isn't quite what you think, double-click on it, click on the link, and the context of where you are is packaged up along with your comments, your rants, your feedback, sends it to us. It lets us structure the information. What app was running? What was going on? Were you hung? Was there something on the screen you couldn't get the focus to or something like that? The second area is the Customer Experience Improvement Program, or CEIP. That's the telemetry that you opt into. It's anonymous, it's private, and it's optional. And in the beta, it's incredibly important for us to have you turn that on and use it. In fact, that's part of using the beta. But we are really hardcore about looking at this data. This data tells us, did applications crash? Did applications hang? Did you weren't able to find devices? What's going on the machine? What are you running? What are you clicking? It sends us performance information. How much memory are you consuming? Do you have a process that's running away in terms of resource consumption? All of these things are insanely important to how we reach the quality of Windows 7. And if you just use those two things, you're really an A1 participant in our beta. And we really, really appreciate your help. And that's what matters a lot to us in terms of delivering the beta, the RTM. And then finally is the release candidate and the RTM phase. So as we're developing Windows 7, our closest partners, our closest customers, the people who make hardware, the large software ISVs, and the PC manufacturers, we're in a continuous relationship with them. They're constantly getting new builds, constantly getting updates. These terms, release candidate, RTM, beta, are the big public versions of intermediate steps along the way. There will be a release candidate for Windows 7, and it will represent, our recall class only bugs that we will fix between then and RTM. We'll know when the release candidate is going to be after we finish the beta. And that's how we've done each and every milestone of Windows 7. We finish the one we're working on, and that informs when the next one's going to be done. And so I don't have any new information on when we're going to release the product. We're sticking to, we think 3 years from the general availability of Windows Vista is the right time to release Windows 7. So for today, I want to wrap up by thanking you first and foremost for allowing us to bring Windows 7 to you today. But they're sticking with the magic number 7. There are 7 things I think that you can do as developers today. First and foremost, install and use the Windows 7 pre-beta. It's a lot of fun, it's great to see the progress, and we really want your participation in the feedback tool and in the CEIP data. Second, please develop for 64-bit. We're probably all running 64-bit, but we think a lot of people are going to run 64-bit with Windows 7. So do everything you can to bring your code up to speed on 64 bits. While we focused a lot on fundamentals in Windows 7, we want to make sure all of you are focusing on fundamentals of Windows 7. So whether it's power management, memory consumption, timers, locks, hangs, crashes, these are all things that collectively, as the PC ecosystem, impact people around the world when we collectively don't do a good job. Integrate with the Windows 7 desktop. The opportunities to integrate along the user interface that Julie showed you today, with jump lists, with libraries, those are great opportunities, and there are many more. Evaluate the new APIs in Windows 7. So whether it's DirectX, the work that you can do if you make device software, across the board we have a broad set of new APIs in Windows 7. We also want to ask everybody to make sure that they're making their websites work with Internet Explorer 8. So special casing Internet Explorer, please go through, do the right version checks, do the right browser checks, do the right UA string checks, and really make sure that your site works great with Internet Explorer 8. And also use the opportunity of doing that to take advantage of the work that we've done in Internet Explorer 8 for you to bring your software and services together within the browser. And then finally, experience Microsoft software and services and the complete window experience by downloading the Windows Live beta at download.live.com. So the betas of the Windows Live Essential applications are available today. And over the next few months, you're going to see a lot more news around the different services and the work that we're doing there to bring all of the software and services strategy together. It's been an honor to represent the Windows 7 development team and to share with you this very first look of Windows 7. I thank you for all of your support and for taking the time to look at these potential action items for Windows 7, and I hope that you have a great rest of PDC. So thank you very much. What I'd like to do now is invite my partner, Corporate Vice President Scott Guthrie, who is going to talk about all the tools and libraries for building on the Microsoft platform. So please join me in welcoming Scott.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Well, Stephen talked about some of the great new capabilities and fundamental improvements we're making to Windows 7. I'm going to spend my time talking a little bit more how we as developers can build great applications that take advantage of them. You can take advantage of the new Windows 7 features regardless of the languages you use. You can use C++ and Win32. You can also use managed languages with .NET. We've also focused a lot on interop and making it possible so that developers can build applications, combine both managed and native code together. And this gives you, hopefully, the flexibility to make the language choices you want based on your existing code and investments. Autodesk, I think, is a great example of this. They have a huge native code investment today. You saw earlier in Stephen's talk how they are updating their Mudbox application to have multi-touch support within it, and they're using standard Win32 APIs in order to do this. With their Autodesk application, or their AutoCAD application, they've chosen a hybrid approach where they rewrote their UI using WPF, and so they added ribbon user interface, and then they basically host a C++ native renderer engine inside of it. As a C++ developer, you can access any of the new Windows 7 capabilities using standard Win32 APIs. We're also shipping an update to MFC, which allows you to easily incorporate many of those functionality, much of those features inside existing MFC code bases. Beyond just APIs, we're then also investing a lot in C++ development with the next release of Visual Studio that we're calling Visual Studio 2010. And in particular, you're going to see a lot of emphasis around IDE improvements around large C++ projects. So specifically around project system performance as well as build time. You're also going to see a lot of investments in multi-core development. And so specifically around allowing you to build parallel applications that take advantage of multiple processes and multiple cores, as well as in debugging analysis tools so you can actually see what code is happening on which core and when it happens and how you coordinate that. This summer, we also shipped in an update of .NET we call .NET 3.5 SP1. And this is a pretty significant update that provide a lot of advantages across the different application types that .NET supports. In particular, for client development, we spent a lot of time focusing on performance. In general, we see about a 40% cold startup performance win for .NET applications that have .NET 3.5 SP1 installed. You don't have to change any code in order to take advantage of that. We also then spent a lot of time focusing on WPF, both around performance with graphics, as well as in terms of integrating DirectX interop support directly into WPF. This means you can now host direct 3D surfaces. You can also take advantage of a new pixel shader API to basically add shader effects to any of your WPF controls. We also then focused a lot on streamlining the end-user client deployment experience for .NET apps, both with the applications themselves, with improvements to click once, as well as in terms of streamlining the actual process of getting the .NET framework installed on a machine that doesn't already have .NET there. .NET 3.5 SP1 will be built into Windows 7, which means that any of the applications you built today that take advantage of that functionality will just work on Windows 7. You can also then optionally take advantage of new Windows 7 capabilities and light up when your application runs on top of Windows 7. And what I thought I'd do is actually write some code and show some examples of how you can do that. So what I have here is a sample application that we've built with WPF. And we're going to be shipping the code to this in a few weeks. Basically, it's a basic photo viewer application built with .NET 3.5 SB1. Allows me to quickly kind of blitz through albums and photos. And I can also apply basic kind of effects to them. Now, right now, this application isn't using any specific Win 7 functionality, and so it just works as is. What I want to go ahead and do is add some additional features to it that will light up and really show off Windows 7. So to do that, let's drop into Visual Studio. So what I have here is loaded up here is a standard main page.xaml file, which is basically kind of the root container, if you will, of my client application. And the first step I want to do is you might have noticed in that app, there's lots of different navigation patterns, lots of different kind of UI elements. I want to kind of focus them all around a ribbon UI that will host at the top of the window frame and have a nice ribbon-based user interface. This week, we're going to ship a new WPF ribbon control that you can use to do that. And so to take advantage of this, all I'm going to do is basically change my root window from being the base window object to being a WPF window object, a ribbon window. And then I'm going to paste in the new ribbon control. And you can see here I can create multiple tabs within those, and I can just put standard buttons as I want within that. The ribbon control will tie into the standard WPF commanding architecture, so I can actually, in my code behind or in a separate class, easily handle commands as those buttons are clicked, as well as hide or show the commands automatically. In this case here, I'm just basically adding a back button as well as a forward button. That's going to tie into the history management of the application. And now when I go ahead and run it, you'll see I have a basic ribbon control at the top of my page. And now when I go in and drill into a picture, you can see my back and forward buttons are enabled and the right navigation occurs. Now, WPF itself has, if you're a WPF developer, you know it has a concept of navigation and journaling built in. And so I'm just actually tying into that as part of my back and forward button. I could kind of complete this overall experience and add a few more elements to my ribbon tab. Just going to paste that in there. You can see I can create a couple of other additional tabs for like photo details and so on. And if I go ahead and run this now, you'll see I have a complete ribbon showing up here. It's contextualized. When I go into a picture, you'll notice my Photo Tools tab now shows up. Get complete navigation, and away I go. Now, all WPF controls and WPF itself has a concept of skinning, so you can actually customize and tweak exactly what a control looks like. In fact, you might notice here, if I change my theme on the fly, let's say I go to a dark theme, you'll notice how everything's updated appropriately, so I can dynamically switch. Including, obviously, the WPF ribbon here. Now, we've added sort of basic ribbon UI. Let's go ahead and also add support for a new feature in Windows 7 called jump lists. And so I think Julie showed that in Stephen's keynote. And it's basically the ability for you to go ahead and add contextualized tasks onto your taskbar. Doing that in WPF is pretty easy. You can just go into your app.xaml file now and declaratively specify tasks that you want to have show up. And so you can see here I have a begin slideshow, create subscription, and add subscription task. So to create that, I simply declare it inside my XAML file, have a title, as well as arguments. And now if a user clicks begin slideshow, it'll open up our application and jump into a slideshow view of my particular open album. So pretty easy to take advantage of. Next sort of scenario I want to go ahead and enable is multi-touch. So I'm going to switch over here to another machine, which is an HP TouchSmart computer. You can actually buy this today. It's about $1,500, so it's pretty cost-effective from a hardware perspective. And what I've gone ahead and done is added some multi-touch capabilities into this application. What we're doing with WPF is we're actually going to add touch events onto the core UI element base class. And what this means is you can now easily handle events within your application to respond to any kind of touch or multi-touch gestures. So for example, I could scan down between my different albums. And if I want to drill into a picture, I can just use my finger to kind of slide through them automatically. I can still obviously use my mouse for a system that isn't multi-touch enabled or isn't running Windows 7. But as you can see, you can get some nice kind of effects integrated as part of that. Speaking of effects, one of the other things that you can actually do, which is kind of nice, is you can take advantage of the new pixel shader effects that we added in .NET 3.5 SB1. So for example, I just clicked on the finger ripple button, and you can see how we can actually now add DX-capable effects on top of any element. And this actually even works for things like controls. And so if you want to have the ribbon flash, you can do that as well. And what's cool about the DX effects is you actually can write and create your own effects, and they all run on top of the GPU. So they're all running hardware optimized within the system. So this is basic gesture support that I've added. Let's actually go ahead and show a slightly different theme. So again, I can dynamically skin it, which is a little bit more optimized for touch. So now you can see I can actually move and navigate my albums pretty easily. I can, let's click into, say, animals here. I can manage my photos. If I want to, I could I can actually copy them around. I can actually resize them to be any size. You can also do kind of fun physics effects where you can push them and have it fade away. Now what's also nice is, let's say I want to go in and tag them. You can see that you can actually go into this tag view here, where I now have tags on the left and right-hand side of this particular photo. And so let's see. Let's add a couple tags. We'll just add some random tags here. But there we go. So anyway, you can see you can quickly scan back and forth between these pictures, add more tags as appropriate. And if I want to, I can also take advantage of here and go into a tag explorer view. Let's say we want to look at landscapes. I can actually start drilling into all of the different pictures that have been tagged with a specific way. And if I like the picture, just double click, I can open up directly. So the cool thing is you can actually and what's nice about the multi-touch support is, again, you can integrate this within any WPF application, as well as any Windows Win32-based application. You'll get basic control support for free. So in other words, you click on a button, you don't have to write code in order to multi-touch enable it. You can just click the button and it'll work. And then you can handle raw input effects as well as gesture commands. And so you can add any additional capability that you want in order to take advantage of it. So that was a quick look at some of the WPF features you can take advantage of with Windows 7. Today we're also releasing a new WPF toolkit that works with .NET 3.5 SB1 today across all versions of Windows. This toolkit includes a bunch of new controls and features that you can take advantage of. It includes a final release of a new data grid, date picker, and calendar control. It also includes support for what we call Visual State Manager, which is a feature that we shipped as part of Silverlight 2 weeks ago. Which is better. But what's nice about this is it basically allows you now to use the exact same control templates that you build for Silverlight with WPF, including support within Expression Blend, as well as our development tools. So all those things are available in final release form this week. We're also then this week shipping the WPF ribbon control that I demoed just a moment ago. This is in CTP form. It'll work with both Windows 7 as well as on Windows Vista and XP systems. And so you can start to take advantage of that and ribbon enable your application today. Okay. We're also this week then going to be starting to talk about .NET 4, which is the next major release of the .NET framework. You're going to see a lot of WPF improvements as part of that release, including much deeper multi-touch support like I demoed there. You're going to see deep zoom support, which is a feature we also had in Silverlight. You're also going to see Visual State Manager built in, as well as a bunch of text rendering and quality improvements. We're also then with .NET 4 focusing a lot on improving kind of the fundamentals of .NET applications and allowing you to build kind of better apps, both client and server. For the first time with this release, we're actually going to support the ability to load both CLR2 as well as CLR4 in the same process and address space. So that means if you have an add-in, for example, that was built with a previous release, rather than always have to roll it forward to run on the most recent CLR release, you can actually now load it at the same time using a different CLR inside the same application. We're also spending a lot of time focusing on managed and native code interop support, making it much easier for you to go ahead and call COM objects, as well as call Win32 APIs using pinvoke. Over the last couple of years, we've incubated a project that we call the Dynamic Language Runtime, which provides a much faster dynamic dispatch for .NET. .NET 4.0 will now include that library built into the core .NET Framework download. We're going to take advantage of this both with our dynamic languages like Iron Python and Iron Ruby and JavaScript. You're also going to see us take advantage of it with traditionally static languages like C#. .NET 4 is also going to ship with a new component model that we call the Managed Extensibility Framework, or MEF. And this basically provides the ability for you to very easily kind of assemble applications from extensions and be able to kind of dynamically add extensions within applications. And this is useful for both client apps as well as web apps on the server, as well as even RIA apps with Silverlight on the client. And it's going to sort of, we think, enable a bunch of great capabilities, both for our own applications and then also for applications that you build. .NET 4 also will include a bunch of improvements with Visual Studio 2010. Specifically, much improved WPF design time experience, including support for data binding and data sources. We're also then taking the step of actually updating Visual Studio itself to be built using WPF. This gives us much more than just prettier graphics. We're using this to add a whole bunch of new features into the IDE, including things like multi-monitor support. Much richer code editing support, as well as refactoring support. And we're going to be able to take advantage of the new WPF-based source editor in order to do much richer code visualizations. You're going to see a much better test-driven development workflow. So that you can, for example, write your tests first and then extract and create your classes from them. And by using the Managed Extensibility Framework to build all these features, we're also going to make it much more possible for developers, including us, as well as ISVs extending Visual Studio, to be able to go ahead and plug in additional functionality into the core product. And this is, I think, going to really enable a bunch of really interesting scenarios and a tremendous amount of agility. And so actually to try to illustrate some of those, I thought let's actually build one over here. So what you're looking at right now is a copy of the Visual Studio 2010 CTP that all of you are getting this week. It's an early CTP, so there's a lot of features that aren't there. And in fact, most of the shell has not been updated to use WPF yet. That'll come in a little bit later. What you are seeing, though, in front of me is the new WPF-based source editor. And so it's completely written in WPF, and it takes advantage of the Managed Extensibility Framework to support a tremendous amount of extensibility. Now, right now, you'll notice it looks pretty much just like the source editor that was in VS 2008. The key difference, though, is that extensibility, which means that we can now add new features into the editor, and also now you can add new features into the editor, which light up and provide kind of richer support. So for example, I have here right here a comment adornment sample, and it's just a standard C# file here, and you can notice I have some comments inside it. I have a summary, I have remarks, I have a bug section. Pretty standard, we've all seen comments like this probably forever. One thing that might be nice is to actually have a slightly richer visualization of those comments, so that you don't always have to see a giant XML blob in the middle of your code. Doing that today is pretty hard to do. The editor doesn't give you that extensibility. Using VS 10 and using the extensibility hooks that we're providing, it's pretty easy. All I need to do is create a class, I'm going to implement a service that we publish, and basically going to, every time the editor finds a comment, it's going to call this class, and I can write some code to visualize and create a view for that comment however I want. In this case here, what I'm doing is I'm actually using WPF itself, and so I'm actually data binding the comment to a WPF view file that I just created and telling the editor insert it at this particular location. To register this with VS, I just need to do two steps. I need to add an export attribute to my code, which is going to let VS find it dynamically at runtime. And then, actually we'll do a build. Well, then actually all I need to do is copy the assembly into a VS extensions directory. No extra registry step, no extra registration required. Okay. And then load VS. It's going to find that there's new extensions that have been registered. It's going to go ahead and load it. And now I have a much richer visualization. About 200 lines total. Any of us in the audience can do this now. And if you don't like my little visualizer, you can always toggle it, so you can actually flip back and forth between classic mode and Scott good mode, I guess. And of course, because you can now run any code within this visualizer, basic stuff like, ever looking up a bug isn't always kind of a pain. You have to pull up a separate bug tool in order to pull it. It'd be great if you could just click on the bug, retrieve the bug information from TFS, and see it directly in your file. So the key thing about this is the fact that not just hopefully it enables some good scenarios that we can take advantage of, but because it's built on this common extensibility framework, anyone can go ahead and plug in and take advantage of it. And as you can see, a couple hundred lines of code, you can really light up the IDE. Going forward, you're going to see in VS 2010 that we're going to be opening up the extensibility all over the place, in particular within the IDE itself, and as well as within the text editor. With the next release, we're going to go a step further, and we'll also open up the language services and the compiler infrastructure as well. And it's going to really, we think, enable some really great code capabilities. And best of all, this isn't tied to VS. The Managed Extensibility Framework ships as part of .NET, and within any of your applications, again, whether it's a server app, a client app, or a RIA app, or any other type of .NET app, you can now publish these types of extensions as well, and dynamically resolve and use them at runtime as well. So, talk a little bit about kind of where we're at in terms of WPF and some of the momentum with client apps with .NET. We shipped the first version of WPF about 20 months ago. And we're starting to see more and more applications be developed with it across sort of a broad range of different industries and technology areas. AutoCAD, HP, Roxio, Lawson, Thomson Financials. There's lots of great applications being built with it, and we're really excited to see those applications appear. What I thought I wanted to do is actually show a real-world example of how one company is taking advantage of .NET and WPF to kind of create a rich branded experience that they can integrate inside their customers' existing lifestyle today. Tesco.com, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is actually the largest online grocery retailer in the world. And their back-end system and their website is actually built entirely using ASP.NET and .NET today. And they're going to shortly be launching kind of a new client application experience that complements it that they're building in WPF. And I'd like to invite Nick Lansley from Tesco on stage to show it off. Oops.
Hi there, Scott. Nice to meet you. Thanks, Scott. It's great to be here. My name is Nick Lansley. I'm head of IT and new technologies at Tesco.com. And with me is Paul Dawson. He's Director of Experience and our design and development partner, Conchango. Hi there, Paul.
Hi.
Now, let me introduce Tesco. We're one of the largest grocery retailers in the world, operating in over a dozen countries. We're also the world's #1 biggest online grocery retailer. And as Scott was saying, we're entirely powered in .NET, which includes the forthcoming Tesco API for developers that we're launching soon. Now, shopping for groceries is different. It's not about a single book or a CD that you buy. It's about buying 40, 50, 60 different items. And we want to help our customers spend less, but spend more of what they do have with us. Our customers tell us that to differentiate ourselves, we must be proactive, we must inspire them, and we must make grocery shopping easier and faster. And this new immersive experience needs to be a client application. So let's show you what we're thinking. We start with a gadget. It's called the Tesco at Home gadget, and it's from that we fire up our application. It allows you to stay up to date with your to-do list, with your Tesco delivery, and even see special offers. It's informative but unobtrusive until you need it. And the application is just launching now. And this is what we call our cork board. So we looked at how our customers live their lives, and this corkboard is really the hub of family life. So it's got messages and notes from family and friends. It's got everybody's calendars and to-do lists and reminders. It's got special offers, recipes for a bit of inspiration, and of course the family photos from all kinds of sources. Now, customers are increasingly conscious of health, cost, and the environment. So a great way to shop smartly is meal planning. So let's go into the calendar, as this is a logical place to plan because we can see what else is going on in our lives. And with a few clicks and drags, this is a fast way to plan. It adds all of the ingredients to my basket automatically. As you can see, we're adding it to different dates on the calendar. We can also then go on to recipes. So we'll just put some of these items into our basket there, including one of the big roast dinners. Excellent. Then we're going to go on to recipes. Now, they don't just give us the ingredients, they can give us video and step-by-step instructions. They can also allow us to adjust quantities for the people that I'm catering for. There are even calorie counts. And we just drag those straight into the basket like everything else. So there you go, what, 3 meals, 30 seconds, how easy was that? Well, if you felt that was a little bit, maybe that was a bit too easy, wasn't it? Well, how about trying to find one thing amongst 30,000 grocery products? So supposing, Paul, we're trying to find a birthday cake. So we can zip through the categories, and we get a 3D wall of product like this, so we can actually find the cake really fast and buy that cake straight away. Excellent. But also we can stumble across things we weren't expecting, like this fantastic Christmas cake. Great, let's take a closer look at that cake. Our customers really want to see the detail, lots of it, so that they know what they're getting. You can also see good suggestions and useful options, which can be cost-saving. Fantastic. Well, now let's go to the checkout and get our delivery sorted. We're going to get most of this stuff delivered, but first we're going to get our friend Rob to pick up some milk on his way home from work, just by dragging it in there. We'll also put that Christmas cake that we discovered on our special Christmas list that our customer has created. Excellent. And the rest is for delivery. And that could be it, but I was told that PDC was about the coolest technologies, so let me show you something else we can do today. So, Paul, I'm sorry, I've run out of cola. Can you put some on the list, please? Now, because we have an integrated webcam and we know about barcodes, it's easy. So whether you've run out of milk or cola, you just add it to your list by waving it in front of your PC. Excellent. And of course, you can switch to a special offer as well. So let's, I think there's something on special offer there. Let's throw that into the basket. So that was our new Tesco at Home in WPF. It offers a step-by-step change in the customer experience over the pure website that we offer today. The benefits of a more engaging planning and shopping tool in the kitchen are obvious, and I'd like to thank Conchango and Paul Dawson for designing and developing this. The forthcoming Tesco API will be open to everybody, all developers, so they can design great applications for our service. And as I hope our Tesco customers will say when they start trialling this next year, just as our company slogan says, every little helps. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a bunch. So we just spent a little bit of time talking about how you can use .NET with PCs and with desktop computers. Obviously, one of the unique characteristics we think of .NET is the fact that you can learn one core programming model, one language, whatever language you prefer, and one set of tools, and be able to actually target a variety of different types of devices, ranging from PCs to phones to the web. And over the next year, you're going to see a significant amount of enhancements in all of those different categories that you can take advantage of. As Stephen mentioned earlier in his talk, we're making huge improvements with IE8 around standards and really embracing standards in a deep way within the browser. We're also adding new features like web slices, visual search, and accelerators that allow you to kind of light up your site when an IE browser accesses it. We're also then, as part of IE8, including built-in JavaScript debugging tools, as well as profiling. Okay. This year, we also kind of shipped a number of major improvements to ASP.NET. As part of the .NET 3.5 SP1 release, we added much richer support for REST, as well as with a new feature called dynamic data for doing data scaffolding. We also shipped a preview form of our model view controller framework that's new for ASP.NET. We're going to be shipping the final release of that in the next few months. and we're pretty excited to add that into the overall ASP.NET family. We're also then making a lot of improvements to AJAX development. And you're going to see with the next release of ASP.NET, significant improvements with ASP.NET AJAX, focusing on REST as well as client-side templating functionality. We've also then recently announced that we're embracing an open source AJAX framework, jQuery, and adding that support into both Visual Studio as well as ASP.NET. Okay. One of the core elements of that is some support we're adding inside Visual Studio 2008, so the shipping version with SP1, to make jQuery IntelliSense really light up and work great inside the IDE. And I'm pleased to announce that starting today, you can now download the jQuery IntelliSense file for Visual Studio. That now gives you complete IntelliSense support for jQuery within, again, the shipping product. And you can download that today, actually, from the standard jQuery.com website, along with the standard jQuery that's available already. This week, we're also going to be talking about the next release of ASP.NET, as well as the new Visual Studio web tool enhancements that we're going to be shipping. ASP.NET MVC has received, as I mentioned, a lot of attention lately, but we're making with ASP.NET 4 a bunch of substantial improvements to the existing ASP.NET Web Forms model as well. So specifically, things like being able to control the client ID so that you can actually more easily write JavaScript against it. Things like much richer CSS integration support so that you can now customize advanced controls using standard CSS in a much easier and cleaner designer fashion. You're also going to see some enhancements to kind of our core controls within that framework, as well as some great Visual Studio tooling support for that as well. We're also then going to be shipping a new update for MVC. We'll also then, as I mentioned, be introducing a bunch of new enhancements to AJAX, integrating both jQuery as well as adding new support for templating and REST query support as well. Within Visual Studio, we're also then adding a distributed caching API with a new service we call Velocity that you can install. It will give you distributed caching across multiple front-end boxes. We're actually shipping a new CTP of that at this conference this week. And it'll be available as a free caching server that you can go ahead and deploy across any number of servers. We're also then doing a whole bunch of investments around web development with Visual Studio 2010. More focus on code focusing scenarios and editor improvements, a lot of focus on JavaScript and AJAX development, a lot of improvements in the designer. We're also, in addition to focusing on developing the app, going to spend a lot of time focusing on deploying an app into production. And so you'll now be able to define, for example, different settings for things like test, staging, production, and deployment. And we'll deliver a one-click way that you can go ahead and publish your application up to a remote server over standard HTTP, whether it's running in the cloud or whether it's running on-premise, and apply the appropriate transformations as part of that. In addition to updating your application settings, we'll also, as part of that deployment process, support deploying your SQL databases as well, and hopefully give you a really nice way to go ahead and deploy your solutions. 2 weeks ago, we shipped the final release of Silverlight 2, which is a big release for us. Our data indicates today that Silverlight is now installed on about 1 in 4 machines connected to the internet. And over the next month, you're going to see those machines start to upgrade to Silverlight 2. We've started the upgrade process about a week ago, and we're closing in on about 100 million machines that already have the final Silverlight 2 release on it. Silverlight 2 itself is a very powerful release, both for media scenarios as well as RIA scenarios. And importantly, it now gives you the ability to run .NET inside the browser and to build experiences that you just couldn't build before. A couple of the applications that have gone live over the last couple of months. The NBC Olympics site went live in August. Had more than 3,000 hours of video clips and video highlights and live video from the Olympics. We had over 55 million unique users visit the site. And what was really amazing was that on average, people that watched the video on the site spent an average of 27 minutes actually watching that video, which blew away the average record on the internet by about 26.5 minutes. One of the things that we did with the Olympics that people really liked was to have a very smooth video quality experience that could adaptively switch the bit rate on the fly based on your network and computing capability. And so you could go all the way up to 1.5 megabit if you were on a fast pipe, and you could go down to a much smaller bit rate dynamically if you weren't. This morning, we announced a new feature of IIS that we're calling IIS Smooth Streaming, which gives you a way that you can now build these types of experiences yourself for free. And it's built into IIS going forward. AOL is another client, a customer that went live in the last month. This is with their new webmail RIA client. It basically delivers integrated mail support, all built with Silverlight, all built with .NET, running inside the browser. K2 is a fully SharePoint integrated SAP front end, also built entirely with Silverlight, that allows people to basically dynamically set up and manage their SAP environments. And this morning, Netflix just turned on their Instant Watch experience using Silverlight. And this now allows you, as a Netflix customer, to basically watch any video online inside their service over both the Mac and the PC. Today, we're also then shipping the first release of what we call the Silverlight Toolkit, which is a bunch of additional controls and additional features that we're making available that run on top of Silverlight 2. This includes a bunch of controls that are in WPF, things like tree view, dock panel, wrap panel, view box, etc. We're also, as part of this release, for the first time, introducing new charting controls that you can take advantage of. This creates both static charts as well as interactive, so you can actually do animations as well as respond based on input as users click on those charts. All these controls are available for free, and we're shipping them under an MSPL license, which means you get full access to the source code, and you can go ahead and make changes to them if you want, and even rebuild and publish them within your solutions. And they all work with Silverlight 2 today. Visual Studio 2010 is then going to build further on Silverlight, and one of the new features that we're going to be shipping with it is a fully interactive Silverlight Designer. This has all the improvements that we've also made to the WPF Designer. Because Silverlight is a subset of WPF, we're actually able to use a common designer framework and a common designer now to target both. Some of the highlights include, fully editable design surface, WYSIWYG rendering of both our controls as well as any custom third-party controls, as well as full data and data window binding support. Next year, we'll also then be shipping a major release of Silverlight, which includes a bunch of new runtime features. We've already announced support for H.264 media, and you'll see a lot more media features being announced in the months ahead. In a few minutes, you're going to learn about how you can actually run Silverlight both inside the browser and now outside the browser. We're also, as part of the Silverlight, the next Silverlight release, going to be adding much richer graphics support as well as much improved data support, and it'll really hopefully allow you to build applications that run great and really deliver a tremendous amount of value. So far, in terms of the application experiences that I've been talking about, and we've been talking about today, we've been talking about kind of how to build Windows client apps, how to build web apps, and we've been talking about them, for the most part, in isolation. Lots of great features, but right now they're kind of not completely connected. And one of the things that we know from customers is that increasingly they want their application experiences to be connected so that they can actually access them with both the Windows box as well as within the browser to share data across different machines and be able to seamlessly kind of move from experience to experience, whether it's on a phone, whether it's on a browser, whether it's on a desktop, and have their data and their experience roam with them. And I'd like to invite David Treadwell, who's going to talk about some of the software that we're building that's going to make this possible. So thanks a bunch.
Good morning, PDC, and thank you, Scott. So Stephen and Scott just showed some of the amazing capabilities that we're bringing forth with Windows 7 and with .NET. A lot of this focused on what we call the client tier, what you can do on a client computer physically close to you to exploit the amazing computational and storage capabilities that we have on these client PCs. The growth of capabilities at the hardware level continues. And of course, at Microsoft, we're going to continue to build great software on top of that to provide awesome experiences for users and to enable developers to build awesome applications on top of that client infrastructure. Yesterday, you heard Ray introduce the Azure Services Platform. This is our platform for the web tier. Essentially a new tier of computing that operates at massive scale, the scale of the web itself, the internet. Requires incredible amounts of computing resources in data centers, operates at huge scale, has to be very, very reliable. Based on the Windows Azure layer at the bottom that does storage, computation, and management. On top of it, the .NET services, the SQL services, SharePoint and CRM services as well. I get to talk about the live services and how they're important both as part of the Azure Services Platform, but just as importantly, how the live services help bring together the client tier and the web tier in a way that really helps users connect their data, their people, the applications, and their devices, and also enabling developers to create applications that connect data, devices, people, and applications. So we've had the live services available for some time. Some of the key components of the live services include our identity functionality. With Live ID, we have a massive credential database where users can use username, password to log into any website, Microsoft or external, that supports Live ID. This is a great value proposition for users because you don't have to remember as many usernames and passwords. You don't have to have a different one for each website. It also enables you to be more robust in your management of those credentials, changing your password more often, for example. We've also had the capability for developers of third-party websites to make use of Live ID, which is a value proposition for the website because it reduces the registration hassle for creating a new account on that website, and also allows users not to have to remember yet another username and password for that website. We have, though, had lots of feedback from customers about wanting to customize that login experience so it is consistent with the look and feel of their website. So that's one of the features that we're talking about this week with Live ID, the customization of that sign-in experience. Also, we've heard loud and clear from our customers that people really want federation capabilities of Live ID. So you heard yesterday Dave Thompson talk about the Microsoft Services Connector and the Microsoft Federation Gateway, which enable businesses and ISVs to connect with live services in a way that they retain control of the accounts that the users use. So you don't have to have everything in Live ID. The account control is an Active Directory in a way that the administrator of that site still retains control of it. And finally, you heard yesterday our announcements about Live ID as an OpenID provider. We've heard loud and clear from customers that OpenID is important to them, and we want our customers to be able to use their Live ID credentials from any website that supports OpenID. Next, with our directory functionality, we have an enormous social graph that users have created in Windows Live Messenger and Windows Live Hotmail. With the Contacts API, we've made it possible for developers to create experiences where you can leverage that social graph, make a more compelling experience for your users, and even help with things like viral adoption of your experiences. With communication and presence, we have capabilities for developers to enhance their websites with instant messaging functionality. The Windows Live Messenger client libraries, the IM controls, enable you to integrate Windows Live Messenger experiences with your website in a way that makes sense for that site. And finally, we have the search and geospatial capabilities that allow developers to include those in their experiences as they see fit. All of this is done in a way that we've tried to make very easily integratable with your experiences. And we do it based on standards-based interoperable protocols so that you can make use of these services without having to have the whole Microsoft stack. Yeah, of course you'll have great access from .NET or other Microsoft infrastructure. But additionally, because it's based on standards protocols like HTTP, REST, SOAP, etc., you can invoke these services from any developer stack. With live services, we have over 460 million users, nearly 500 million people actively using these live services. Around 11% of internet minutes are spent on live services. and we have hundreds of thousands of servers worldwide. It takes enormous capital investments to run services at this scale. And Microsoft has been working on these for many years, and we have this giant scale. Literally billions of dollars that we've spent on all of this, supporting the live services and all the infrastructure on top of it. But with all that, we still see from users and get lots of feedback about many issues that exist in the computing universe today. For example, I bet everybody in this audience uses multiple computing devices on a regular basis. Especially with things like netbooks and other really cool devices coming online, it's neat to use different computing devices in different scenarios. You have your desktop machine with the high-end graphics, your super lightweight travel laptop. Maybe you have a machine in your living room. It's difficult to integrate all these devices together in a way that really provides the richest, easiest experiences. I'm sure sophisticated people like yourselves can do it, but it requires a lot of work to integrate all these different devices. Of course, we love our websites. The web does a great job at providing access to data from any different computing device, so long as you're online. While we think that more and more online computing will be obviously relevant, we all know how much connectivity we have, there are still important scenarios when we're not online, or when you have large data sets that would take a long time to move from the web to a local client machine. Additionally, we want our websites to work really well with the client applications that we have. The things that Stephen and Scott showed this morning are mostly client applications and really exploit those amazing computational capabilities we have on the client. And we want to make it easy to integrate those client applications with what happens on the web. Another key benefit of the web has been the sharing and the social components that it brings. The web does a lot to make it easy to communicate with the people you care about. And of course, it's all underlaid by data. We have lots of different data in lots of different places. You want control over your data, you want easy access, anytime access to your data, and that's sometimes difficult. What this means is we have all these different islands of computing resources. And this is why, about 6 months ago, we introduced Live Mesh. The purpose of Live Mesh is to bridge these different islands, to make it easy for users to have access to all of their devices, all of their data, all the people they care about, all of their applications, with a core concept of synchronization underlying it. The experiences, though, that we introduced 6 months ago with Mesh are really the tip of the iceberg. We've always known with Mesh that a key aspect of it is the platform infrastructure that underlies it. And so this week we're starting to talk about Mesh as a key component of the live services. The developer infrastructure that it brings together to allow developers to create applications and websites that connect a user's data, their devices, their people, their applications. So we're taking these Mesh services and we're making it a key part of the live services. By adding these Mesh services to the live services, we're rounding out the live services as a platform for software plus services applications to allow developers to build applications that blend the best of what you can do on the local client with the best of what you can do in the cloud, all based on synchronization. It connects applications to users in the devices, makes it really easy for you to build an application that leverages these multi-device, multi-user sharing kinds of scenarios, and integrates client and cloud capabilities to do it. But how do you access the live services? Today we're announcing the Live Framework. The Live Framework is the way to get at live services. Think of it as the set of interfaces. In some ways, by having both a live operating environment and a programming model on top of it, the Live Framework is the way to get at live services. The live operating environment is akin to the Common Language Runtime component of the CLR, of the .NET Framework. It provides the runtime execution environment, running on a PC, running on a mobile phone, running in the cloud, consistent environment, and your code can run in any of those places. And then the programming model is the actual APIs that are used to access the live services. We have consistent interfaces across this, again, based on open, interoperable protocols, so you can access the live framework from any developer stack. And again, it works on PC, phone, and web. So with that, I'd like to invite Ori Amiga, Group Program Manager of Live Services, to come out and show us how to enhance a Windows application with the live framework. Ori?
Thanks, Dave. Scott Guthrie showed us earlier today how you can take a rich Windows client application and really snazz it up using WPF. What we're going to do now is take that same application and mesh enable, or meshify it, as we lovingly call it, using the live framework and the power of live services, making it an even greater citizen in this world of the PC, phone, and the web. To do that, we're going to add 3 new capabilities to this application. Inside our sharing wizard, we're going to first enable the application to easily access all of my data, my folders, files, and photos across my devices and my personal cloud storage. Second, we'll enable the application to seamlessly synchronize its metadata, settings, user preferences, and data across all of the devices in my mesh. And third, we'll enable it to tap into my social graph, into my Windows Live contacts, Hotmail, and Messenger buddies, and enable a sharing experience right within the application. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we do that. First thing we're doing in our code is connecting to the live operating environment. This is our service composition engine, which runs on the cloud and on each of my devices. Now, to get at my data, my live folders, the data that's syncing between devices and the cloud, I'm going to enumerate all my live folders, which are a type of mesh object. And for that, let's go ahead and do a simple for each statement for each. I'm in liveFX.mesh.meshObjects.entries. Let's go ahead and add that to the collection. Into the live folders list, .add. Not that. There we go. For that instant gratification, let's hit F5 and see what happens. Now, the beauty of the live framework is we try to make it as natural for .NET developers to get at all this data and capabilities. And so I can use all my existing skills and just get going. So here are all my live folders, my documents, photos, my PDC stuff, all in just a handful line of code. Now, let's go ahead and wire up the other 2 tabs. So for the devices tab, it's just as easy. So I can do another simple enumeration for each device. In liveFX.mesh.devices. And let's go ahead and add that to the device list. Now, for contacts, let's do something a little more clever. For that, instead of just simple enumeration, we obviously support the power of link. And so you can write link queries against the live framework on the cloud or on the client. So let's go ahead and bring up a little nifty live framework code snippet. Notice I can go through all my contacts, order them by, let's say, their name. I can add a where clause or anything else I'd like. And then it's, again, as simple as just enumerate over the collection for each contact in the query. And let's go ahead and add that to my contacts list. And let's see what happened. So just with a handful line of code, I'm now able to tap into, again, that data, devices, and that social graph. Going through the wizard again, let's go ahead and pick my PDC stuff. There's my live folder. Here are all of the devices in my device rings. These are devices where I've already installed the Live Mesh client on, my work PC, my home PC, Media Center. There's my mobile phone. Let's go ahead and enable synchronization to this device. And here are all my contacts, the people that came from Windows Live in the cloud. Okay. It's as trivial as picking a couple more contacts to share with. Notice Dave and I are already sharing this mesh object. And let's hit finish. Now let's take a look at what this application actually did with all that code we wrote. So Dave, let's go ahead and switch over to your machine.
Sure thing. So I've already got the same application that Ori just built running on my own machine. I'm going to change the theme of this to be red so you can see it's a different machine. And it's already synchronizing the photos between our 2 instances of this application. So different devices, same application, synchronizing the data between the 2 of them.
Rocket. Let's go ahead and pick the same photo in our albums. I'll pick this nice lake photo.
There we go.
And I'm going to add a little new effect to this photo. Notice the beautiful little water bubbling. We switched to black and white. And this is just metadata on this photo. I'm not actually changing the photo itself, just applying an effect on it. Now, because we're sharing this mesh object, within a few seconds, that metadata change will occur. And notice that now on Dave's machine. That pretty cool way.
Thank you very much. So he changed the metadata on this machine, and automatically the infrastructure synced it to my machine without me taking any action. No hands.
No hands. Very nice. Let's try another exercise in here. Let's switch to the home gallery.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to go into my mountains collection.
Alrighty.
And let me pick up my mobile phone. This is a very nifty Windows mobile phone. And we're going to take a picture of you. You don't look like a mountain, but you know, we could try.
There's you.
Remember, he already added this mobile phone to his mesh, so the mobile phone is going to be synchronizing the data with his mesh automatically.
There you go. So that's my mobile device, adding data to my own mesh. It synchronized to this mesh object, and then obviously it showed up on yours. So what we've shown you today with just a handful of lines of code using the Power of Live framework, powered by live services, application can easily tap into the data that users have, into the devices that are in the mesh, and into the social graph, all in a very natural .NET-y way. Thanks very much, Dave.
Thanks, Ori. That was great. So that's how to take a client application and integrate it with the live services and the live framework to exploit those concepts around synchronization of data and connection with users. Next, I'd like to introduce Anthony Rose of the BBC and his assistant Paul, who's going to show us how to mesh enable a web application, specifically the BBC iPlayer. Anthony?
Thank you. So hi, I'm Anthony Rose, Head of Online Media at the BBC, and I head up the BBC's iPlayer project. The iPlayer lets you watch or listen to pretty much everything from the BBC's 8 TV channels and 50 radio chat stations. And it's been live for about 10 months. It launched at Christmas last year. It's been a huge success. At peak times, it accounts for about 10% of the UK's entire internet bandwidth. What we're looking at on screen now is the iPlayer website. And you can see it's what I call a broadcast 1.0 proposition. Essentially, programs that aired on TV or were on the radio at peak time yesterday, you probably want to watch or listen to today. And the iPlayer website reflects that. So at the top, there are programs we want to promote. As we scroll down, we see what was on TV yesterday or on the radio now, and we see most popular. But as a small but growing % of the audience stops watching television and flips over to on-demand services like the iPlayer, how do we move towards a broadcast 2.0 proposition? And for that, things like the mesh will help us. So this is a proof of concept. It's not live yet, but if you look down at the bottom of the site here, you'll see our mesh integrated with the iPlayer site. So this is activity from the mesh feeding through into iPlayer. Let me go and close the browser and go to our desk companion. So this is a Silverlight app running locally, and on it, the first thing I can do is I can see all the devices that have mesh live services installed. Now with one click, I can take my iPlayer application and sync it to all my devices. That's fantastic. It lets me get the same experience on all my devices. Down the bottom, we can see my friends. These are all my contacts from MSN Messenger, and Messenger is the largest IM network in the UK. So for the BBC, this is a huge viral opportunity. Imagine all of my friends, just a click away, I can share my iPlayer programs and activity feed with them. So let me go ahead and invite a couple of friends. Okay, click OK. Now, still in our iPlayer desktop companion, I'm now on the Everyone tab. So I've got a feed coming from the mesh, showing me the activity of the mesh, the most popular programs and activity as it comes in. And again, this is all powered by the underlying mesh infrastructure. You heard there were hundreds of thousands of computers. This lets us focus on the broadcast propositions and creating great consumer propositions, and we leave all the underlying hard stuff to Microsoft to take care of with those vast server complexes. So let me flip to my friends. So in this new world, when people perhaps stop watching TV as much, no longer can the broadcaster determine what we should watch and what will be the tastemaker. It's now our friends. So I'm looking at my friends. I know that Carl has a great set of things that he likes. I share the same tastes. So let me click on Carl and see what Carl's been watching, listening to, and his activity. All right, let me go ahead and close that. And I can see that amongst my friends, Robin Hood is the most popular program. So let's go and click and play that. So down the bottom, we've got the love meter. Now, these are full-length programs, full movies, 30 or 60-minute programs, not clips. So some of them are boring bits. There's some cool bits. How do I know which bits to play? And my friends can help me tell me that, and I can inform my friends. So the love meter at the bottom, I can hit I love this, I'm bored with this, and that gets synced into the mesh and is available to my friends. Let me go ahead and tell one of my friends about this. Let me click the share button, and I'll tell Lorna about this program. Okay, so now enough about my friends. Let me get to me. So if we click on the Me tab, we can see the program I've just played, and we can see my activity. Now, what's really interesting here is because this is meshified, this information is going out to all my devices. So if I'm in the office and I've watched a program halfway through and I'm now going out for lunch, I can take out my cell phone, and when I go on my cell phone, that program has been synced to the cell phone. And it's not just the information, the metadata, but through the cloud, the actual program is on the phone, and the program, in fact, will resume playing from exactly where I left off on my desktop computer. So this fantastic, seamless connectivity. And And this is iPlayer running as a Windows mobile application on this Samsung phone. So with that, let me end by saying, last year, your broadcaster chose what you watched. This year, thanks to on-demand propositions, you choose what you watch, although probably what you're going to watch was really determined by your broadcaster. But next year, your friends are going to choose what you watch, and it's thanks to meshified applications like this that will allow that new Broadcast 2.0 proposition. Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
That was great. Thanks very much, Anthony. So that was taking a web application, a Silverlight-based web application, integrating it with these live services, live framework capabilities, such that it could run offline, access the data offline, and run out of the browser as it does it. So we didn't have long to talk about it. That's a very high-level overview of what we're doing in live services, and obviously we're genuinely enthusiastic about what we're doing there. You want to get started. First off, download Visual Studio 2008 SP1. Has a lot of the advances that Scott talked about. Great development environment. I'm sure many of you use it already. Later today, on Azure.com, we'll have the Live Framework CTP. Please go check it out. Make use of this infrastructure. Build applications that exploit these concepts around synchronization of data, of devices, of applications, and of people to build awesome, compelling applications that take the best of the client tier and the web tier for your users. Please sign up for Live Mesh as an end user. Later this week, we're putting Live Mesh in beta, and we're adding capabilities, both new features as well as support for Windows Mobile 6 and Macintosh from the Live Mesh. And finally, later today, around 1 o'clock, we'll have the goods USB hard drive, 160 gig hard drive. It'll have a ton of the bits you'll need to make use of all the stuff that Stephen and Scott and I have talked about today. So with that, I'd like to introduce Takeshi Nomota, who's going to show you how Office is taking advantage of the technologies that we've been talking about today to build transformational application experiences.
Good morning. It's my absolute honor to represent the Office team today to share our vision for delivering great user experiences across the PC, phone, and the web in Office 14. Office is about helping you work the way you want to. And with over 500 million customers using our products worldwide, we have learned a tremendous amount in terms of the huge diversity in the way people work. Customers also tell us that they want to be, no matter what their work style, they want to be able to share information, connect with others, and collaborate without boundaries. And of course, people want to do this with a seamless experience across the PC and phone and web. And that's why I'm so excited to announce today that we'll be delivering Office web applications as part of Office 14. Office web applications are lightweight versions of our desktop productivity applications that enable people to view, edit, and collaborate on Office documents right within the browser. We will be delivering those for Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and OneNote, and you will see many of them today. So let's get to the demo. Let me start with OneNote 14, our digital note-taking application. Today, I'm playing the role of a movie producer with Chris as an outside consultant. On the right hand, and we're using a notebook that we're sharing on Office Live. On the left-hand screen, you can see the notebook open in OneNote on my PC. And on the right-hand side, you can see Chris at an internet cafe using OneNote web application to access the same notebook. OneNote gives me a very flexible surface to keep track of all sorts of things, like the text, documents, images, and I can also see who contributed what content into this notebook. We are all brainstorming together for movie locations, and one of the locations we're interested in is Original Pantry Cafe, which is a local favorite just a few blocks away from this convention center. So let me grab a screen clipping of a map for this location. I can pick just a portion of the map I want, and then OneNote automatically adds it to the notebook with a very helpful URL that helps me go back to the source if I want to later. And in a few seconds, it should show up on Chris's browser as well. Very cool.
So Takeshi, I see that the picture has synced into my view of the notebook, but we still do need some information from the cafe. So I'm going to make a note here that we need to take a shot from this location. Oh, I'm a terrible typist.
So I get an update from Chris with this green highlight here on my PC as well. We also have Dan in the audience. And imagine that Dan's actually at the cafe, scouting this location, using his phone and taking in photos using OneNote Mobile. OneNote Mobile synchronizes all the notes he takes on the phone to a shared notebook on Office Live. This means that the photo he just took on site, it will show up on my PC shortly. And there it is. You can see the menu from this cafe here. And let me just grab this and put it right here. And this is now going to be showing up on Chris's browser as well in just a few seconds. So this is a great example of Office enabling dynamic collaboration across the PC, phone, and the web. And it's also a great example of our vision for the future of productivity. Now let me switch over to Word. Word 14. So imagine now that Chris is back in his office at his PC. And he and I are looking at a contract to finalize a business arrangement. So you're seeing that both he and I can open the same document at the same time without being locked out or being forced into read-only mode. And on the right-hand screen, you can see that Chris edited the location information. And in my view of the document on the left-hand side, I am seeing his presence information. This helps me avoid making conflicting changes, and also lets me use the presence icon to reach out to him if I want, whether it be an email, IM, or a call. Let me add the project title. Titled. Okay. And as I type, in a few seconds, Chris should be seeing a presence of myself in his document. But now that I'm ready, let me just sync the documents. And I get the updates in green highlights from Chris. Now, let me go back to the Office Live Workspace, where we're sharing this document. Office Live Workspace is built on many of the live technologies, live services that David talked about earlier. And in the future, your live mesh folder would start showing up here as well. Now, let me open the same contract we just looked at, and this time, open this in the Word web application. I get a fantastic rendering of the document, just as it was meant to be read. All the elements of the documents are here. The nice formatting, the table, the footer, even the watermark. And Office web applications would work on Internet Explorer, Firefox, and Safari. But we can make the experience better when we can use Silverlight. Like when I zoom here, I get a fantastic crisp text thanks to Silverlight. Now, of course, it's not just about viewing. I can go into editing, and you can see that we're delivering the ribbon to enable a consistent experience in the browser, as well as enabling an editing experience that's simple and fast. One important thing to note here is when I make changes in the browser, the document still retains its full fidelity, which means I don't lose any data or formatting. Now let me switch over to Excel web application. I have a spreadsheet that helps me score the various locations to figure out which one's the best one for our film. I am opening this in IE8 here. And Chris will be opening this in Firefox. Just like the Word web application you saw earlier, I get the same ribbon experience, consistent ribbon experience delivered into the browser with all the basic editing capabilities. I get things like conditional formatting, data bars, icon sets, or things like the chart down below, just like as I'm used to on the PC. And I can do things like use the familiar sum function, just as I'm used to. Oops, I better type sum.
Okay. So Takeshi, I'm a huge fan of Felipe's, which is actually downtown. Thank you. I'm a huge fan of Felipe's, and I'm going to call this location out by highlighting it here in my view, just so you know how much I like it.
OK, you can see that the Chris's change being reflected on my view, and of course, my changes are reflected in his as well. Now let me just hit publish. And this lets me publish the various elements of the spreadsheet with an embed tag that I get here into some other sites or blogs. In this case, let me pick the chart I showed you earlier and publish that into Windows Live Spaces. Let me finish the posting. So here, you're seeing the chart posted into this blog using REST APIs, which allows me to pull the various information from the spreadsheet. This means that when the data in the underlying spreadsheet changes, the chart will get reflected as well.
So Takeshi, I don't think the score for Felipe's is quite fair, especially not given how much I like it. So I'm going to manually bump that up to say 500, I think is fair.
OK. So let me hit refresh here. It's updating. All right, let me try again. You can see that the chart reflects the changes that Chris just made. This is also a great example of how Office web applications can help extend Office documents into the web. As you can see, we are very excited about the Office web applications. But they're actually just a small part of our overall story for Office 14. And as we move along, we look forward to sharing more of the full story on Office 14. Office is all about defining the future of productivity. And to us, it means embracing all of the diversity in the way people work, while bringing them together in a great collaboration experience that spans the PC, the phone, and the web. Thank you, and let me bring Ray back on stage.
Thanks, Takeshi. For quite some time now, many of you have wondered just how, or even whether, we might truly bring our Office suite to the web. Our aspirations have been about more than just delivering docs and spreadsheets in a browser over the web. What Takeshi just showed you is that the combination of the web the phone, and the PC can be clearly more valuable for our customers than any one of those platforms as taken by itself. As a combined integrated solution, we can center the creation and editing tasks where they're most natural and effective on the PC. We can pivot the sharing and collaboration around the internet and the web. We can channel your most spontaneous actions to within your arm's reach on the phone. This is a vision of seamless, connected productivity, a coherent vision of a multi-screen office, office across platform boundaries, an office without walls. Before Takeshi was on stage, Dave Treadwell gave you a quick overview of the live services platform and how we're using mesh technologies to create a synchronization bridge that spans Windows PCs, the phone, and the web. He showed how live services can be used to mesh-enable a content-rich website, letting Microsoft bear the risk of understanding how to reliably sync at high scale across a world of Windows PCs, phones, and devices. Scott Guthrie showed you some tremendous innovations in the realm of our platforms, tools, and runtimes. And what I found great about Scott's talk is just how easy we're making it to build great Windows apps and web apps, which, of course, I think is a critically important thing because a contemporary software and services app should easily be able to deliver the best of Windows and the best of the web. In opening the morning, Steven Sinofsky showed you some of the great innovation in Windows 7 and Windows Live Wave 3. Windows and Windows Live coming together to deliver a seamless PC web OS experience, a Windows without walls. So in terms of a call to action, if you haven't done so already, please make sure to register for provisioning at azure.com. And starting at 1 p.m. today, every attendee can pick up a copy of The Goods, a disk containing the bits for Windows 7, Visual Studio, .NET Framework 4, and much more. So as I draw today's keynote to a close, I hope that these presentations and demos have been useful to you and to your business. All of what you saw yesterday and today is real. And I hope this was pretty clear to you in the way that we're betting on our platforms with our apps. But unquestionably, some of the elements of what you saw yesterday and today were also nascent. And for some of the things we introduced, it's really just the beginning. We showed some nascent but important back-end infrastructure, design patterns, and models that are aspiring to be the basis for our horizontally scaled systems of the next 50 years. We showed some nascent but important front-end infrastructure and design patterns and models that are aspiring to be the basis for the multi-screen experiences of today and tomorrow, Windows PCs, the web, and a world of devices. At both the front end and the back end, for all of us as developers, for you and for Microsoft, we see these as significant investments in our future. So once again, thank you. Thank you very much for your time and attention and for coming to PDC 08. Thank you for investing in us, and I hope together we can continue to do some amazing and valuable things for all of our customers. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks.